Welcome back to Rochester Living with Mark Siwiec and Corey James Moran, brought to you by Elysian Homes by Mark Siwiec and Associates. This is episode 191. Mark, hello.
Hello, bud. How are you?
We say on the podcast all the time, right? How Rochester, for the size of the market, has so many things about it that maybe would surprise someone that's coming to visit. Like, wow, instead of your size has this. I would argue that the RBTL is exactly one of those things. Arnie Rothschild's joining us on the episode this week.
Thank you for that,
CEO
by the
board
way.
chair. Yeah, I mean it's fantastic. I mean it's so easy for me to sell to these people that are coming into our area what we have to offer. You know, from arts and culture, and obviously RBTL is a huge part of that.
I would appreciate that. It's an exciting moment in time for the organization, so thank you.
Absolutely, we're going to get into how you got into it. Definitely some things that are happening. I mean, there's a big renovation, so lots to be excited about. But first, should we ruin the podcast by talking about the market?
Oh my God. There's not much further that we can possibly fall.
You'd think.
Yeah, it is just. I mean, thankfully we continue to do well, but like as an industry in this region, well, actually no, it could be worse. We could literally be living in Cape Coral or Fort Myers, right?
True.
We could be living in Texas. We could be living in so many of these other municipalities.
We're drowning in listings. No one wants to buy anything. Yeah. It could be worse, I guess. But at least here in Rochester, we'll get our market update. With this said, it is spring break week. Easter is on Sunday.
Yep.
So it's traditionally a slower week, but we saw quite a drop in listings. Last week, we had 387 single-family active listings in Monroe County. We're at 326 right now.
326 in the month of April.
Uh-huh.
And again, all right, so every week, what do we talk about? How many of those listings are viable, decent listings?
Yeah.
About 125 of them.
Yeah.
The other 200, not so much. So
Six County region, not much better. 645 last week. We're at 596 right now. And then this is what's the interesting number for me, at least. The under contract and pending. So we saw a big jump. Last week it was 862 from Monroe County. We're at 960.
okay, that's interesting. That's very
So
interesting.
properties are moving.
Yeah, they're moving. Yeah,
very, very
yes,
quickly.
yeah.
Six County region, 1290 last week. We're at 1386. So again, very similar.
Right.
Things that hit the market are just poof gone.
Yeah. What's going on with interest rates?
What is going on with interest rates?
Wait, what time is it?
Right, I know. Let's see. Well, about a week and a half ago, we were at 6.2.
5.5.
No, I think we were lower than that.
No,
I had
6.5.
I had somebody lock in at 6.25.
Wow, that's pretty remarkable.
That's closing in May, by the way. So it's not like it was that far back. Right now, we're a little higher than last week. Last week was 6.82. We're at 6.87 right now. And then for the 15-year, it was 6.2 last week. We're at 6.28 right now.
Yeah.
Do you think that, go back last year, if we had a CPI report like we did this last week, what would have happened to the rates last year?
Well, last year there was stability in the markets.
Yeah.
So yeah.
They would have just tumbled. But now, slight uptick for, what was it, 2.4%?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is the rate of inflation, as measured by CPI, has actually come down. So we might be living in this, but as Doge continues to make cuts and as tariffs continue to wreak havoc in world financial markets, the stock market, the volatility and all that, I mean, this might be a moment. I'm hopeful that over the course of the next few months, there's going to be greater stability, greater calm, that the president actually starts to put forth a more thoughtful, I think, tariff response. It just seems to change, morning, afternoon, and evening. So let's just hope. But sadly and unfortunately, every day I'm reading another article in which a pundit, an economist, a columnist, something, the chair of the Federal Reserve, everybody is just pointing to the fact that it looks as if inflation is going to kick in again, and it looks as though growth is going to continue to tumble. So not continue to, is going to start to tumble. So yeah.
Well, Fed Chair Jerome Powell did speak last week as well, or was it this week actually? And he did say it's a wait and see approach. So not going to do anything, which again, not shocking considering no one really knows what's going on.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting to see that the European bank, the central bank, they actually cut rates just yesterday.
Okay.
And so this is causing the president to say, you, Jerome Powell, should do the exact same thing. So it's going to be the standoff between these two guys is going to be ugly. Is going to be ugly. I mean, he's only got a year left in his tenure as chair. So, but hopefully the president doesn't try to push him out, because that would cause even further concern in world financial markets. So, and ultimately would probably end up with the U.S. Supreme Court. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, again, never boring with this stuff. Arnie, how closely do you follow it? Are you more of a let's wait and see what happens kind of a approach with it?
Well, if you back up time 3 weeks, and a continuing resolution was passed by the Senate to keep the government funded, we lost $2.5 million in earmarks that were already built into the budget. All the earmarks.
We meaning RBTL?
Oh, wow.
RBTL. $1 million from Schumer and $1.5 million from Senator Gillibrand. So the way member-directed funding in the House of Representatives or the Senate, which are commonly called earmarks, are very specific for projects. So we had, and part of the restoration, and it was aimed at mostly at the fourth floor area called Cathedral Hall, which is an unbelievably beautiful part of the building. But as soon as the CR passed, that eliminates all the earmarks. So everything came out of fiscal year 25, and now we had to reapply in 26. Now there will be federal earmarks in 26, because a lot of Republican members in the House lost member-directed funding for their districts, so that's problematic. But as we sit here in the House of Representatives, there can be no funding for any project that has the word arts or theater attached to it. So you have to, that's why we took the route in the United States.
It's all going toward DEI-related projects, I understand?
Yeah, well, they came out as well, but this restriction on theater projects, by the way, has been in place since the Republican House majority. They just don't like arts-related projects.
Yeah.
They'll get back there, but to answer your question, so it was just 3 weeks ago that we lost $2.5 million of the funding that we thought was aligned.
All right, well, let's go back, because
Sure.
because I want to eventually provide some context, because the project that you're referencing right now, I bet you anything that a lot of people aren't aware
Right.
of your role in RBTL. Where did that start? What your current role is? I don't think, and I don't think I'm over exaggerating or overstating this. I don't think that people are aware that you seem to be like a one-man show in terms of the renovation of this historic building and helping to just shore up a really, really important part of downtown Rochester. And then I want to get into how, because the project is eye-popping in terms of the amount of money that is needed to be raised, and how much money you actually have raised and where that money is going towards. So can we start at the beginning?
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I always say the first 31 years of a project are the hardest. So if you back up time, first of all, let's go to 33 years ago, when I was in the broadcasting business, and the Rochester Broadway Theatre League was kind of a tertiary level in people's mind entertainment company. And like a lot of arts-based boards, it had a problem. And that was that the people that sat on the board of directors were people that loved Broadway and popular entertainment, as opposed to being good business people. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of arts organizations, RBTL got into serious money trouble. And in that period of time, Albert Nocciolino, who is the Broadway presenter partner who's been with us with RBTL for 40 years, said, we want business people to come on the board. We want to, it's not that we don't love the people that love Broadway, but we want to make sure that we have business people and oversight. And so I came on the board in no small part to protect the interests of the broadcast company that we owned. And then over time, it became about a year and a half later, I became the board chair by default. Kind of because no one else wanted the responsibility.
Well, in part because it was the organization was such dire straits.
The first thing that I had to do was negotiate payment schedules with people that with all the broadcast community, for example, where we owed a lot of money. I met with all of the general managers of the radio and television stations and said, look, we can't pay you. What we'd like to do is take what we currently owe you and spread it out over the next 12 months, and anything else that we buy currently, we will pay you net 30 days. So I had to go do a workout. And then over time, I began to rebuild the board as chairman with a lot of business people and told them that I really didn't care about their opinion of the shows that we brought to town, that it was a fiduciary board, that their job was oversight to make sure that we were a solid business operation. As we sit here today, by the way, to measure what's happened, RBTL, and this is all public with our tax filing, which is called 990, we have a $10.5 million operating retained surplus.
Insane.
We have no debt on the theater portion. Wow. In March of 2023, we bought the rest of the auditorium, the entire auditorium complex. This was built in 1928, dedicated in 1930 as the Masonic headquarters of this part of the state. And the craftsmanship is unbelievable. But it fell in disrepair. So beginning in March of 23, when we bought it, we started saying, well, look, we have to create something, and we can create something because of the great workmanship in this complex that will be some place that people want to take their friends and family from out of town rather than just the Pittsford Wegmans. So now we brought in people with great sense of, you called it a renovation, and I'm inclined to call it a restoration, because first and foremost, if there's any place within the complex that we can restore, we're doing that. But we also have to recognize that in 2025, accessibility is a problem in older buildings. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the changes that we're making are to make it more accessible. But it's a $65 million project.
I mean,
Staggering. Yeah, that's staggering.
It is remarkable that people in town don't know how much money is being poured into this place.
Well, strangely, Mark, the reason is that we haven't really been aggressive in reaching out to the community. We did a very high-profile naming rights deal. We negotiated with Herr Automotive, which is the largest automotive group in New York State. The Assembly delegation, the Senate delegation, the Empire State Development people, the governor's office, the city of Rochester have all been unbelievably supportive. And I would tell you as I sit here that, and also the federal government.
I was going to say, do we want to throw the county in there?
Well, there isn't anything really that the county can do much.
Okay.
It's not that they haven't been supportive.
Yeah.
There's just been no ask. So, for example, the Industrial Development Authority would be helpful in saving you taxes on materials, but we're a 501c3, so we don't pay taxes on materials. So we haven't asked anything, but we have been in front of the Preservation Board 4 times, and the Preservation Board.
It's always fun, right?
Yeah, but 4 times has approved everything we've asked for.
That's great.
At the same time, when they said no to the Genesee Valley Club about a fence, and they said no to the George Eastman House about a fence, and I said, well, we want to demolish the back of the building and build new hallways and do whatever. Yeah, that's not. So government's been unbelievably cooperative. We put together already $19.5 million. So.
And all right, so you mentioned West Herr. Uh-huh. They were responsible for a large portion of that. Are you able to tell us how much? Because they've got naming rights, you said, right?
Yeah, they asked that we not be specific about the dollar amount, but I would tell you that it is by far the largest naming rights deal that has ever been done in our part of the state. And to put that in perspective, the ballpark originally, Frontier Field, was like $3 million, and the arena was like $2.5 million, and this is multiples of that.
Well, thank you, West Herr Ford.
Yeah, seriously.
That's so. All right, 19 million of 69.
65. But and we've not even begun our real aggressive local outreach. Currently, I'm working with the Ralph Wilson Foundation, the ESL Foundation, the ESL marketing folks, the Farish Foundation. We have lobbyists in Albany. We have lobbyists in Washington. One of the easy funding streams that I've resisted that kind of works within all of the real estate domain is that we could monetize historic restoration tax credits. But the reason that we haven't done it currently is that I don't want to get federal designation on the building, which then would restrict some of the things that we want to get done before we go get the federal designation.
Got it.
So the the entire restoration is planned to be completed by 2030, which will be the 100th anniversary of the complex. So the and that last stage is expanding the lobbies to the east, and we had to design the expansion. And again, remember that this is a preservation board protected site. Is that we're glassing in the lobby extensions so that you can see the building.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So by mid-June, this is going to look like a totally different complex in that there's a brand new rear entrance, car drop-off, accessible car drop-off, 18-foot wide hallways, digital screens on the walls, with what is currently called the Floriano Room that was named after Joe Floriano, also because he was on our board when he was diagnosed with cancer, and we named it after him. That will be all glassed in with live music, show nights.
Oh, awesome.
On the second floor, we put in 2 new elevators. People could never ride up to the second level of the theater. They could only walk upstairs. So we put in 2 new elevators, broke through the walls, created a walkway right into the second floor lobby, built a new entertainment space on the second floor that has an observation deck that's going to look down into the glassed-in Floriano Room. But $2.5 million worth of elevators, by the way.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Not to mention about $350,000 in a backup generator for the elevators. But so restoring a structure of this age is really a fascinating kind of a project, but it takes a different skill set, and we're doing it while keeping the building open, which is
what a balancing act that.
So.
And you don't have a development team. You're it. Is that right?
For right now, yes. But for right now, I think I would be the person best suited to it because, and this is kind of a funny part of the story, because I am not really a theater guy. I'm a marketing guy. I could stand in the lobby for hours and watch people be happy. But I'm not a suspend reality. I loved Hamilton and some other shows, but I'm not a show kind of person. But I know that from a quality life point of view, which you were talking about, this is a critical element for the growth of a community. And there's another part. When you have a performance entity, spaces like this, restaurant development happens around them.
Oh, yeah.
And that more people move into downtowns because there's great restaurants than any other reason, that if they can have proximity to great restaurants. So now one of the behind our complex, which is on East Main Street, but behind the old Red Cross building is being converted to apartments. And one of the most respected restaurateurs in town is looking at opening another location right in that building. So people would just walk across the parking lot.
That's a perk, yeah.
Yeah, so also, when we bring this, I promise you that the 4th floor Cathedral Hall, which is a 450-seat venue, is the most incredibly beautiful room you've ever seen.
I had the privilege of walking through this past October. That room is spectacular. It is so beautiful. And what was really great about the tour, and what I know people are going to enjoy as the work is progressing. Just these sheets of drywall are just coming down, and you're exposing all of this beautiful architecture and all these beautiful architectural elements one after another. I mean,
thank you.
There are so many reasons to be grateful for the work you're doing. I mean, saving this icon, making a better cultural scene, shoring up, a part of downtown that needs shoring up, frankly and honestly. I mean, it is an anchor.
Thank you.
I mean, over and over again.
I want to tell you that we actually got very fortunate because of COVID, and it sounds strange, but let's back up time. So for years we were looking at, we felt we needed 2,850 to 3,000 seats because the cost of productions were moving up, and you want to maintain some kind of manageable ticket price. And the auditorium is 2,464 seats. And so we began a community conversation about, we looked at Parcel 5, and we looked at, the first site was to combine federal transportation dollars and a theater and build a transit center at the corner of Main and Clinton along with the theater and MCC all in one complex.
I remember all that, yeah.
And then Parcel 5, and then Tom Golisano was going to put his name on it at $25 million. And then there were a lot of people that wanted green space at Parcel 5.
Remember
and
that
then,
fight, yeah. Oh,
and then we looked at moving it to where the Pink Hotel is across from the convention center.
Okay.
The Pink Hotel.
And along the way, the former mayor said, did a press conference and referred to it as the Tom Golisano Performing Arts Center and Entertainment Center. And Tom told me from the get-go he would never pay for people's entertainment. So I got a phone call asking me to come to his office for a meeting that I wasn't going to like.
Oh, no.
And he took the $25 million back. And in that meeting, I said, would it change your mind at all if you knew that today was my birthday? And he said, no, it wouldn't. I said, oh, I thought I'd try.
Throw the shot.
Yeah, right. But anyhow, but now, post-COVID, the theater industry changed how they price seats to what they call dynamic pricing, where it ramps up kind of gradually based on demand.
Yep.
And so the 2,464 seat theater worked. And so we pivoted, bought the rest of the complex. And by the way, as real estate guys, and again, this all shows in our tax return, but you'll like the deal. So we paid $2.4 million for the complex, picked up $425,000 a year in rental income, and $175,000 at minimum in parking revenue.
That's not a bad deal.
Bought it out of cash reserves.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's a solid business deal. And 24 of the last 25 years, in the new and improved RBTL, we've generated, you're not allowed to say profit in the not-for-profit world, right? We generated an operating surplus without government subsidy.
And again, this is an organization that shouldn't exist in Rochester any longer.
That's true.
You basically resuscitated that organization.
I've been blessed with a great board, and people that really care about it, and we just don't let them argue about the shows. We focus on making it a legitimate business. We even, right now we're revisiting, you go to a show, our mindset is from the time you leave home to the time you get back to home, the entire experience should be seamless. So we're testing things like, what do we sell at the concessions? Should we sell little cupcakes? Should we, what should pricing be for things? At what point do you go cashless? Ticketing is now changed. A lot of people have got them on their phone, but we also have a lot of seniors. What is the ease of entry? We did a deal with the Rochester Police Department to put blue and whites out in front of East Main Street, but to slow down traffic, so there's one on each side with their lights on, slowing down traffic, helping people across the street, because we're parking cars now at the Corpus Christi church lot. But we also tied them in, and this is important, we tie RPD into the 10 people and our communication security folks that are out patrolling the parking lots, because we want people to know that when they come to the building, they're safe coming into downtown. And there's a lot of suburban residents who got out of the habit of coming into downtown. So my point is, it's a real inclusive, logical business plan. And our goal is, upon completion, is to have a plan, a 20-year plan in place, so the building will generate an operating surplus 20 years out as well. No debt, absolutely no debt.
I mean, is this unheard of?
Sometimes I've never asked anybody because they're liable to say, no, it's okay to have debt.
Sure.
It makes no sense to me. But again, as I kept saying to our folks early on, the term not-for-profit can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You just use it as your tax status, right? And have a mindset of a for-profit and super serve the people that come to the building. So even in the next season is going to be probably one of the biggest. So in 2019,
It was Hamilton the first time.
right. So in 2019 was Hamilton the first time.
That was the first date my wife and I had after my son was born, was going to the theater to see Hamilton.
Wow, that's cool. It's an amazing show. But so 2019 was the biggest year we had of total subscribers. 2024 is the second biggest, and I think 2025 is going to be the biggest because the lineup is 7 Broadway shows in the season, plus Hamilton is an ad. But you know, we were fortunate. We got Wicked coming in this season on a 2-week run, coming off the unbelievable success of the movie. And Juliet, which is a huge Broadway show. Kimberly Akimbo, another huge Broadway, multiple Tony Award winner. The Neil Diamond Show, A Beautiful Noise, is
Everybody
coming.
loves that.
Yeah, the Suffs, which is the story of the suffrage movement, which will work really well in this part of the state. And then they made Clue, by the way. Remember when the game?
Yeah.
The game. They made it into a play, which is interesting because, you know, it's not a musical, but it's a play. So, you know, we'll probably have, you know, Colonel Mustard kill somebody with a candlestick or something. And,
Perfect.
But and then Wicked and Spam-A-Lot. And but there's going to be 10 weeks of just Broadway because Hamilton's 2 weeks, Wicked's 2 weeks, 6 other shows of 1 week. And people don't realize it. And to your point, Mark, I mean, we currently do about 157 nights a year in the building. Night before last, we did Brit Floyd, and with 2,000 people.
Oh my gosh!
And it comes every year, and 2,000 people or more come to the show. Joe Bonamassa comes here a lot. We have a lot of music. Oh, we did a almost $1 million sound upgrade to digital sound, and the first show to come in to use it was Bob Dylan, and people said to me afterwards, I've seen him for years. That's the best he ever sounded. I said it had nothing to do with him.
Wait. Bob Dylan was. How did I miss Bob Dylan coming into town?
Just lucky.
Oh my God! When was he in town?
6-7 months ago.
I don't know how I missed that.
Come on, Mark.
I'm ashamed. I'm just gonna hang my head. That is really remarkable. And who's doing your programming?
So
you said you yourself, you know, aren't really a Broadway guy.
So the Broadway programming is our longstanding, multiple Tony Award-winning partner, Albert Nocciolino,
Okay.
NAC Productions. Popular entertainment. So my chief revenue officer, Linda Glosser, is the primary booker, if you will. We do some shows at risk where we all get together and try to figure out the math, and we might take a risk position with independent promoters. We work with all of the major packagers, you know, both in music and comedy, and you know, you do. The business model is changing a little bit. Like, let's call it the movie theater model, where you know use nights becomes important because we operate our own concessions, and you know and the industry's changing, and we're changing rapidly with it to identify the kind of this is a great comedy market. People don't realize what a strong comedy market is. Jerry Seinfeld comes in, he'll do 2 shows, totally sold out. You know, comes to town all the time. Ron White and the blue collar comedy folks would come in. It's a great comedy market. We're juggling things because of construction. So this summer, for example, the entire front of the building, we're tearing up all the sidewalks, moving the retaining walls, putting brand new stairs in front, widening the sidewalks, creating kind of a plaza. By mid-June, people are going to be shocked with the back of the building. By the end of the summer, the front of the building is going to be totally revamped.
So when does this whole project wrap up? When does it finish
Well,
up?
you got to do it. So right now we're focused on a lot of the visible stuff, right? and accessible stuff. So next summer, not summer of 25, summer of 26, we'll relocate all the dressing rooms. We will, if you've ever been in our VIP lounge, so you said something earlier about walls that got put up over time. So in our VIP lounge, there's a wall that was put up, we believe in 1970. So we're going to take that wall down, and it'll enlarge the VIP lounge by a third. But on the far end of it is a big old grand fireplace. And so,
That somebody thought to cover in drywall?
Right?
yeah.
It's making me think of any house that we walk through that has like terrible, ratty old carpet on it, and then you pull the carpet up.
And it's
and
marquetry.
It's
Yes,
beautiful. Yeah, beautiful hardwoods or marble or something.
And on the second floor entertainment space that we built, we pulled up stuff covering the original floor. We refinished some of the original floor from 1928, which is beautiful. And when we put in the elevators, the old elevator doors, and elevators were narrower then, were brass.
So are we
brass
people?
doors. I'm sorry, yeah, right. Were brass. So we took one half each side of the elevator doors, and we mounted them in the walls at the new bar locations. So they're mounted in the walls. We're building a museum in there of anything that we take out. Like there's a lighting board from 1928 that you would think you could probably light up Frankenstein. It's all kinds of handles, and the Rochester Music Hall of Fame is moving into our building.
That's so cool.
We're Rochester City Ballet. We're talking to right now. Garth Fagan Dance wants to move into the building, so we're making this a legitimate multi-stage performing arts center.
It's huge.
And some of these, I would imagine, are going to be using the fourth floor space.
Oh,
Is it? Yeah. Okay.
That'll become the preeminent wedding venue in the community and entertainment venue. That it is a shockingly beautiful room. It's there are 6 huge chandelier Art Deco light fixtures that are probably $35,000 to $50,000 each, and then there's 10 smaller ones, all original as well, that are probably $20,000 to $25,000 each. There are 62 brass doors in the complex. Wow. And they weathered over time, and so we had to bring a crew in from Chicago to refinish the brass doors. They weigh 450 to 600 pounds each.
Who did you hire to come up with this concept of what? I mean, because that's you're describing a very, very complex project in terms of the aesthetics, but then also the sound and the lighting, and then the timing and the logistics of all this, and what it is that is current in the world of theater. So coming off the back, like, and having digital screens on the walls. Who came up with all this? Who did you hire?
So a lot of it is homegrown.
Really?
Yeah. Pike is the general contractors. They've been amazing. Labella has done a lot of the design work. Concept for the rear hall started as simply as when we did the tour with the CEO of West Herr, and there was this winding, narrow hall. He said, if we put our name on this, you got to fix that ugly hall. And so that was the impetus for and then I think after several Bacardi Limones and Diet Coke, I talked about putting up digital screens, which are going to be there. But I've got the executive team, John Parkhurst, who has been with RBTL over 50 years, Chief Operating Officer. Linda Glosser is my Chief Revenue Officer, and I, the three. So there's by the way, Russian horse teams that pulled heavy sleds were called a troika. Okay. And so I refer to our three-pronged management team as a troika, and so we work collaboratively on all these things, and everybody has different skills.
That's great. Comes together beautifully. I mean, really, really remarkable. What show? All right, wait. Are there shows that you would love to bring into Rochester that you haven't yet been able to secure? Do you think then it will be easier for you to procure some of these with the new facility?
So yes is in all those answers. There's always new shows that you want. There's one, by the way, that I was hoping that we would have this cycle called Corn, which takes place in Iowa. And the reason I wanted that show was because I went to college in Iowa. But
And you never asked for anything for the shows. One time. Just one time.
I did, because I really wanted Hamilton here.
Worked out well.
And that was, by the way, it sets up better in this theater, and I can't even explain why. I saw it on Broadway, I saw it in London, and I've seen it in our theater. And Hamilton travels with a surround sound system, and everything in the sound works unbelievably well with the configuration of our building, and the staging works well. And there's a reason, by the way. So when the Eastman Theater was designed, that was designed as a silent movie theater. So the sight lines are for a 28-foot screen. And because ours was designed as a Masonic complex, and it was for rituals, it's all for 5-foot, 10-inch folks. So the sight lines are really, different. At Hamilton, by the way, every night, every performance, the cast went out to the stage door. We blocked in an area, and they stood there as long as people wanted autographs. They stayed out there with them.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I got to meet the bomb dog. They travel with the bomb dog, and that goes through. Well, so if you think back to when Hamilton was first on Broadway in 2016, and Vice President-elect Pence went to the show, the cast started to lecture him, and it got to be a big political controversy that then led to security problem. So they've always traveled with bomb dogs.
Wow.
And people just think they're kind of working dogs, for drugs or whatever, but they actually go through the entire complex.
Oh my gosh.
They're smelling people for, explosives and whatever.
Wow. All right. So are there other shows that you would love to bring, that you think you'll be able to bring as a result of?
So there's a show currently on Broadway with George Clooney.
Oh, yeah, right.
And the problem is, good night and good luck. And the problem with the show is that that's a very star-based show. But down the road, when when it goes to the road in some form, I would love that. The Alanis Morissette show, Jagged Little Pill, I would like to see. We do really well with these what are called jukebox shows.
Yeah, right.
The Michael Jackson
Motown,
show, MJ did great. The Ain't Too Proud was great, and so there's a lot of product that is currently churning. But for right now, Anne Juliet was one that we really wanted. We really wanted Kimberly Akimbo and A Beautiful Noise. Bringing Hamilton back as an additional 2-week performance is going to be huge. And for those of the folks that watch what you're doing that haven't seen Hamilton, 2 things. First, go on YouTube, listen to the music before you go.
Right.
So you don't miss anything. And
Just because it's so easy, it's so interesting, it's so complex, it's so fast moving, it is so multi-syllabic. I mean, it's yeah.
Think about Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote what we call the book, which is the story, the music, and the lyrics, and an all cast of color, and the show's written primarily in hip hop. Other than that, he didn't press any envelope, any windows.
Yeah, right.
But it is the most fascinating piece of writing and theater that I've ever seen. It's just fascinating.
We're all waiting for his next. I mean, I know he's done projects since, but we're all waiting for that next blockbuster, and it's in him. It's definitely in him.
But it's interesting that sometimes, and he's an unusual talent. By the way, in that show, I was surprised at how much he understood politics, and I couldn't understand why he had a fascination with it. And it turned out that his father was part of the Koch administration in New York City.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he grew up in
interesting.
politics.
Wow.
But so what I worry about is you have this unbelievable change everything show, and I look at what happened with Andrew Lloyd Webber with the impact of Phantom and
Cats
and it just like it's just so hard when you have the greatest grossing show of all times. What do you
What's
do?
the follow-up? Yeah,
what
sure.
do you do, right? So,
You end up, I don't know, producing Starlight Express or something horrible. So, are you familiar
sorry,
with that one?
sorry, it was.
Are you familiar with Starlight Express?
And by the way, I do have to say that if you stand in the lobby when Cats performs, and a lot of people love Cats, the most common thing you hear in the lobby is a husband saying to his wife, "I have no idea what this is about."
Yeah.
I don't know what it's about.
Yeah.
But his talent is just unbelievable, and we're blessed. You know, we're blessed. The organization's in the right moment in time, doing the right thing in the right city with the right people rooting for us, and so we're blessed.
Arnie, can you expand on that a little bit? I want to hear you talk about Rochester as a community. Obviously, it's embraced given the success, but talk a little bit about Rochester as an arts and theater town.
So So I grew up in Syracuse, okay, and so Syracuse is a great college sports town. Buffalo is a great professional sports town. Rochester's heritage is music, entertainment. The Philharmonic here flew in the face of what happened all over the country, where Syracuse Symphony closed, or Philharmonic orchestras went out of business, or it's the heritage. And sometimes if you just go back to the roots of a community. So when I came here, by the way, which was 1986, I was asked a question that I had never heard. Are you a native Rochesterian? And I went, what does that mean? But within a year, I really did understand. Mm-hmm. This is a different part of the world. Did you know that, by the way, in 1988, the banking industry was consolidating, and they did market research. So we call Key Bank of Central New York, like what it is in Syracuse, or Key Bank of Western New York, like it is in Buffalo. And the answer they got was, we don't want to be aligned with either. Just make it be Key Bank.
Yeah. Smugtown, yeah, right?
Smugtown, right. Do you know that this is the largest city in New York State without a state office building? Do you know that the New York State Thruway was rerouted away from Rochester because they didn't want it to come to Rochester? And that, over time, one of the reasons why people of my age had never built anything in this community was everything was built by Kodak, Xerox, and Bausch & Lomb. And so people that should have been doing those major development deals didn't have to. And now we're reinventing ourselves. Between photonics, I did a walkthrough, by the way, the other day at AmeriCorps, which is amazing. Between photonics and offshoot industries, Rochester, the vibrancy of Rochester is you're going to see incredible growth because we shed the shackles, if you will, of being protected, and so good young minds like yours will now be doing major deals that people of my age didn't have to do, and that will be a real positive thing. The other thing is this. So one day people got together in Syracuse and they said, well, for us to ever be a major league college sports town, we got to build something other than this outdoor concrete bowl football stadium. And so they built the Carrier Dome. And then in Buffalo, there was an abandoned movie theater that was run down. And they said, the city bought it. And they said, well, if we restore this, Shays will change downtown Buffalo entertainment. Yeah. So this project, the West Herr Performing Arts Center project, is going to be that for Rochester. And to your point earlier, Mark, that part of East Main Street, which is actually the entry, is going to look totally different. And when you think of over 200 nights, 200 plus nights a year of entertainment in that building, vibrancy and people getting used to coming back downtown and restaurants growing around it, it's going to be a different dynamic.
Can't wait.
I am so bullish on Rochester that and by the way, I didn't think I was going to be. I thought I was coming here for about a year.
Of course. You hear that story a lot. Yeah.
But I fell in love with it.
Fantastic.
It's a great city, and thank you for helping to shore it up. Honestly,
I appreciate it.
so I mean, single-handedly, it is just unbelievable. So thank you.
So a lot of people are smarter, and they would have stopped. And I get too much credit for it, and I don't really know what a calling is, but I do know this became mine. And what I appreciate is that people gave us an opportunity to do this and listened, and that because ultimately the boo birds can silence you, but it's going to happen.
It is.
Well, they know the impact. They know how important it is. And again, I led this episode with there's a few key things in Rochester that make us Rochester and different from these other sized cities in the country, and that's one of them.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Absolutely. Mark,
What do you got for us culturally? Yeah.
little Rochester news.
All right. Arnie, jump in.
We're going to go from one of the favorite things in Rochester, the RBTL, to one of the least favorite things,
Oh, no.
ATVs and dirt bikes. Although, good news. This year,
Yeah, go ahead.
if there's any of that activity, these ATVs and dirt bikes, what do you think's happening to them?
They are going to be scrapped.
That's right. Dismantled, scrap metal.
Yep.
Goodbye.
I don't know why they don't. Well, they should just sell them. I mean,
Yeah, I guess
they should just sell them. But scrapping them, that's
Whatever.
great. Whatever it is.
They can
so
buy
long
them
as it's-
back, and then you can do it again. So if you
Yeah, they're
scrap
never
them,
going to buy them back. They're never going to buy them back. So anyway, that is good news. That is definitely good news. So
this as well, and this kind of ties in with what Arnie was just saying. The city is emerging as a tech hub with a 20% increase in startups since 2023. I'm going to repeat that.
Wow.
A 20% increase since just 2023, and opening of a $50 million AI research facility is going to contribute to job creation and innovation as well.
who's doing that? Is that Teresa?
I don't know, because it's just this blurb that I have right here. But it's a thing.
But
real.
that sounds like something that Teresa would do, right, Arnie?
Also, the Senate AmeriCorps, which is fascinating, which is an offshoot of the university. They're doing amazing work. They're a startup incubator located in the Sibley building.
Yeah, I just had Seder with Ken Green talking about just that issue. Yeah. So, yeah. Huh.
And then the last thing, just shout out to the Rochester Americans. Secured a playoff berth for the 50th time in the team's history.
All right.
Mark, big hockey fan.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
Could be your next thing.
What's that?
Could be your next thing. You
Doubtful.
proved it. You proved it with football.
Arnie,
Mark knew nothing about football. And then he read Football for Dummies. And then he utilized ChatGPT. And now he knows all the things.
all the things.
Mark, break down cover 2. What do you think?
Well, it involves a few safeties. I don't want to get into it
Of
right
course,
now.
yeah. You don't want to make me look dumb by explaining it to me of what it means.
One of my favorite things on YouTube is the Buffalo football fans booing the moment that Josh Allen got drafted.
Oh, I saw it all just pop up. Yeah.
If I was one of those people who was holding the top of his head and
Oh,
booing,
they have to move. They can't live in anywhere in Western New York, Rochester, in Syracuse. No, they got to move now. It's too funny. I saw that pop up on Facebook last week.
I love it.
Arnie, do you have any? All right. So I'm going to start a new tradition. It might end in a moment. What's the best news or the most interesting news that you've heard? Or Arnie, because
Are you saying mine wasn't good enough?
yours is very interesting, but Arnie knows everybody in town and he knows everything that's going on. So what's the best piece of gossip that you can actually
Loaded question.
The best piece of gossip.
that you can actually disclaim? Or the most
No,
interesting-
but there is something that happened
Here we go.
the other day that I couldn't wrap my head around, and and I apologize in advance because some people are going to misunderstand what I'm saying. Some of our elected officials protested in the Rochester airport, the Avilo Airlines, because they have a government contract to fly ICE detainees out of the country. And I was thinking, yeah, you know what? You bring in a discount airline with the intent of driving down airfares. So let's have demonstrations with elected officials to force them out of the city, to force airfares up.
Are you talking about Mary and Rachel? Well,
What a
I'll say
coincidence.
yes.
I just, what was the upside? You know, it's like, hey, listen, we don't want you here because you have a legal government contract in private enterprise. If you got an argument with ICE, argue with ICE, not the stupid.
Yeah.
It was just ridiculous to me that they allowed it.
Which is so crazy because nothing they've ever done has been controversial or
Ever.
ridiculous.
No,
Yeah.
never.
Anyway.
Never. That's a good one.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you. I'm glad I asked. I'm very glad I asked. Thank you so much. Corey, anything else on your end?
No, I don't think so.
Have you seen White Lotus?
I've seen bits and pieces because we started watching it and then I would fall asleep and then I would lose interest because I didn't know what was happening and my wife would just plow through the rest of the episode without me. So every now and again, I would
Be
see.
grateful.
Oh, all right, you did watch it.
Be grateful.
He's been
Because
crapping on White
everybody-
Lotus.
Because everybody's been talking about White Lotus. Everybody's just, it was as mindless as I assumed it was going to
Were
be.
you
So-
insulted, Mark?
Was I, did
Did
it
it
insult my
insult you?
intelligence?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes, it did. I'm glad we walked through it because I know.
Great news because I've got a great show that I'm watching now that you're going to love.
What?
The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen anything. I mean, I saw the first season.
Yeah, season 2 just started. You
I-
did watch it. You liked it. You liked a zombie apocalypse movie or show?
Was it the third episode or the fifth episode of season 1?
Oh, that's true. That's right. Yeah.
I still like. I'm desperate to watch that episode again, and I can't because it is just. It just destroys. It is just. It is one of the most emotional things I've ever seen in television or in movies. And that could have been a standalone movie in and of itself. So
There's a little flashback in this one.
oh boy. Anyway,
But worth watching.
Anything for us before we
No, I
finish up here?
appreciate the opportunity to visit with you.
It's really great to
Fantastic.
see you, Arnie. Thank you so much for coming in. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thanks
Thanks.
again. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.